some questions after that.
Okay, so let me get out of this. How do I? An overview looking down on the project with the drill hole plan coming in and zooming in now to see the actual 4 or 5 main zones as we've identified them to date. And, this is really good to see this in this fashion because you really get to see how things, may or may not be, as you think they are when you're standing on the surface. In fact, I'm just going to pause this right now because if you look at it, this is the new South Pond zone. And initially, when we were looking at this, we thought it had more of a northwesterly sort of trajectory. And, it still may. In fact, it still may just kind of curl around and hook in through there because, nothing is really ever flat as a board and, nice and evenly thick and perfectly uniform all the way through. You're going to get gaps and offsets and things like that. So, maybe in the same fashion that, these two are offset, that this is offset by the same amount from here. So, but, that's the beauty of drilling, like every hole you learn something new and you get to add more to the, your knowledge base. But so this is basically where the new South Pond zone is, and just on this side of it, of course, is where the float cluster was that we found that averaged, I think 36 grams, a dozen samples or so were sampled, and that's the average up to, we had a high of 157 grams. But anyway, so let's just keep going and have another look at it. So you can see here there's a zone that may or may not be linking. Here's the west trend, here's the east trend. What's this thing starting to come in here now? All this is fairly new material, right? So, and of course, the footwall splay, which the high grade stuff, could that also be part of the linkage between east and west? We still have yet really to answer that. And, again, it's just a lack of holes, right? I mean, yeah, we look like we have a lot of holes here, but you know what? It's not enough. Trust me. So here we come again now, looking at it from the east side. Basically, all the zones are dipping towards your your tabletop there. And again, we'll come in and see how the things. If someone wants me to stop, I'll probably stop there. Oh no, we're going to actually keep going just because we're going to zoom in a bit. I think get a little better look. So yeah, so here you can start to see some of those little inliers or outliers, if you will. This is the main western trend here. There's something reaching out here. This is the footwall splay. I think we had 4.7 meters, I think, of just under 50 grams here. And of course, this is the eastern trend with the 1801 discovery hole in it. And this is what we call the eastern trend south. We're not quite sure how it lines up. It may actually start trend out here beyond the reach of a lot of these earlier holes. So again, how many holes do you need? Well, you need a lot, especially when you can't see what your target is, through the overburden. But anyway.
Tim, we have a question. We have a question. If you can take
okay, yeah.
Now. Yeah.
Well, the question, this is Christopher Weber. You mentioned Fosterville had 6 parallel structures. Seeing the 3D model, is it unreasonable to suggest that 4 areas may connect into parallel structures with a connector structure between the footwall splay and the west zone?
Well, we clearly, and I said 6, that was just a number I threw out. There's probably more faults than that actually at work at the Fosterville deposit. There may actually be dozens bedding parallel faults that, are sometimes difficult to see, but, we certainly see here evidence of multiple, I think, linked structures. I think the east trend, which is this chap here, and the west trend, and these other ones are all linked at some point. I think they're all related in terms of potentially the same event. Where and whether they link at depth, remains to be seen, and will require a lot of much deeper drilling. And I think what we're looking at here basically is just a feathering out, of a master structure at depth. And as it got closer to the surface, pressures and things, caused the thing to maybe form something similar to a braided stream effect sort of thing, with structures pinching and swelling and coming and going and sort of thing. And I hope that answers your question, but I just want to point out again here. So here we see that basically oblique, footwall splay zone just coming off of, the main eastern trend, and kind of inching its way towards the western trend. Whether it does or not, maybe it skies out and is basically eroded off, which is possible because we're only very shallow here. I mean, these intercepts are only 30, 40 meters below surface. So, by the time they would have actually reached surface, current day surface, we may have already, they may have already been eroded by glacial effects. But time will tell. But again, it just opens up, some of the possibilities moving forward.
I know Christopher said, in short, gold and red connect and blue and green connect, which is what we're saying. So the western trend goes into we think, into the South Pond stuff, and
Yes,
the
exactly.
eastern
In fact,
and the eastern south.
let me just
Now,
see if I can
Stephen
move that.
Carlton asked, early days, I know, but how would you mine these sheets of mineralization?
Ooh, well, I'm not a mining engineer, but clearly, I'm just going to stop this again. It all depends on a lot of factors. How close the material is to surface. I mean, some of this would clearly be all mined with a very shallow and quite limited open pit. We know that the South Pond zone comes to surface, and we drilled underneath it, and 30 meters down we hit I think 4 meters of 64 grams. So we know that and that's something you may be able to pit out. It all depends on the rock mechanics, even like how stable are your rocks. I mean, do you need to to make a pit twice as big just to keep it safe or stable? And again, the price of gold, a whole bunch of factors go in. But what you could see here are basically small pits, basically high grading, getting a good cost base under your belt at the start, with adits basically chasing, or ramps chasing down the higher grade mineralization where it gets beyond the economics of an open pit. So again, I'm not an engineer, and but I do see possibilities for that, based on the fact that these zones most likely do come to surface, not just the South Pond stuff, but even the stuff at in the eastern trend, the footwall splay. And we know that Altius did trench actually and reach mineralized bedrock, the only one trench that ever reached bedrock, but it was a massive pit, and in fact it probably cost them $100,000 just to dig it. So
you might be able to show them that in the start of this thing, because you can see the open area where it's still open. No trees are growing, right, Tim?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, it shows up on one of our slides in one of our earlier presentations as a heart-shaped brown reclaimed area, and that's basically the size of the pit they had to dig to get down and see bedrock. Maybe in an area 10 meters by 5 meters. So they had to dig something.
I guess answering the question of the mining overall, though, these type of deposits are generally they're mined from underground. Anything that you can get, if you can get 3-4 meters of the 3-4 meters of width, generally consistent, then you would just follow them down, and you go down with a decline, and you come across on your various working levels, and you mine them. Now, Christopher again asked the distance between these two zones, the eastern trend and the western trend. That's what, Tim, 150 meters, something like that.
Yeah, less than 200 meters.
Yeah. So you might need 2 declines. You might need, you might just put 1 decline down and come across through the middle or something. It's really too early to say that, but you would have to mine these underground, because typically these type of deposits will continue down to, not unusual, to 1,000 meters and maybe beyond that. Casa in Kirkland Lake is down. I think they're down 7,000-8,000 feet. They're close to getting 2,500 meters type thing, right?
Yes, and Peter, I guess just to use a local example, the past producing Hammerdown mine, which is now under advanced development by Maritime Resources, was both an open pit, where the stuff came to surface. They pitted it and then ramped down on it. So probably a scenario very similar to that could exist here at Moosehead. But time will tell. We got to drill a few more holes yet, but let's all stay optimistic. So okay, we'll continue with the movie, and so basically, if you look at this, if there's 2 widely spaced holes, and then it's the wild blue yonder, heading south towards I think it's over half a kilometer down to the nearest drill holes, where, by the way, Altius did intersect some veining with visible gold in. So I mean, this is all just prime bush here to for testing. So I'm quite excited about that as well. So just continue on with our video, and yeah, Peter, remind me to show that that trench outline at the end there. If it doesn't show up, I'll just go back to the beginning. But yeah, so I mean, you can see, you know, these ore bodies, I'm not going to call it an ore body, but these mineralized zones, you know, are quite variable in shape. You know, they're never uniform. You know, they're never smooth, continuous. You know, like a dinner plate sort of thing where it's all, you know, all neat and confined. Sometimes you actually have to, you know, work a little harder at it. And so here, if it shuts off in time, yes,
You can just, yeah, you can just see it there,
right,
right there. Yeah.
there. That's a
Great.
big trench, you know. That's $100,000. So you can get we can get 150. We can get 600 meters of drilling. You know, that's probably 4 drill holes for what it would cost to drill and reclaim this trench. So you know, you'd have to really know what you're looking at there. You know, if you drill a hole and it collared like right at bedrock, which we have in this area here, some of the first holes we drilled in the Western Trend, you know, were quite spectacular. I mean, we had over 1,000 grams over a narrow interval, but within 2 meters of surface. So, you know, that's an area you'd probably want to do it. And we have, you know, drilled in this area and gotten those kinds of results. So, but, you know, in terms of, is this the way to explore here? Probably not. But, you know, given the right situation, again, you know, an intercept very close to surface or bedrock interface where you know, because your casing went through it, you know, that you're only dealing with a couple of meters of overburden. Yeah, you could probably do it.
Yeah, and just Tim, while you've got that map on there, I think it's really it's important to say too, the ice directions here are essentially north northeast. So pretty well along the trend of those 3 ponds. You got North Pond, South Pond, and then you got the next one down is Camp Pond. All 3 of those had lake sediment, high lake sediment values. All 3 of them. That's what got Miranda, who found this thing originally, made the first discovery. That's why they went in. And all Miranda found, prospectors found, were a bunch of white quartz boulders, and they were on North Pond, I think at the north end of North Pond.
Yeah, right around here, Peter.
Yeah, somewhere like that. And that's what started this whole exploration. Now, if the ice direction is north northeast, and Camp Pond has a high lake sediment, it's way down. And we're not even drilling down around that area yet. There's been very little work done down there. But if and that's still not down to the boundary of our property, we still have a lot of room down to the southwest. The gold that came in that to made that lake sediment had to come from further down to the southwest. So the potential here, and we've got areas, Tim, you know, as you mentioned to me in the past, I think up north, up by that little pond, north of North Pond, that little thing there, there's holes up there that all with visible gold in them. Really
Yes,
haven't
that's right.
been followed up, right?
Yep, just very lightly. And yeah, so there's over 2 kilometers basically from that, from this dumbbell or barbell shaped pond down to here, which is, you know, I guess these are 500-meter blocks, 5, 10, 15, yeah, 2 kilometers. There's visible gold in drill holes along this entire length. You know, that's a sizable chunk of geology. And, you know, when you're exploring it with a drill, you have to take the good with the bad, because, you know, you can't see what you're actually, you know, the orientation of what you're testing until you get enough holes in it, like we have, you know, for the main mineralized trends, right? You know, there's not enough information up here to model anything up here. So, you know, we could be missing the trend, it could be offset. So there's there's a lot of possibilities here, but, you know, the fact that it is, and Peter's right, there's gold up here, you know, in the ground, not just in float, but, you know, in a drill hole.
Tim, I have a question for you, because I do get a lot of phone calls and questions from our shareholders, but a few have said they think the property size is rather small. But how if you were to plop the Fosterville Swan Zone onto your property, what would be the dimension of that Fosterville high grade deposit? That's it?
See this brown patch?
Yeah.
That's about it. You know?
Oh my God.
You know,
So
it's not very big, right? You know, it's not very big. What it is, it's a chute, right? And that's the thing that, you know, we have to keep in mind when we're drilling holes here. You know, we get an intersection and then we drill, you know, alongside it 25 meters away or whatever, and, you know, we don't get it. Well, what happened? You know, well, these things occur as chutes, and, you know, a chute is something that can be any orientation. So Fosterville, to my knowledge, or at least what I've read in technical reports, I've been there, yes, but I mean, I wasn't underground, and Swan Zone wasn't even, a warm thought in anyone's mind at that time. Didn't know it was there. But 50 meters in strike length,
Yeah.
4 to 15 meters, in thickness. But the down plunge, right? It's the down plunge. It's the shoot. It's that plunging
Pencil.
pencil type
Be
thing,
like a
right?
pencil, yeah.
Yeah, that really gives it that. And in some cases, you'll have those things and you can chase them for a long ways. And in some cases, you'll find they get broken up by later faulting, and you've got to kind of feel around for them a little bit, right? But 50 meters is not a big, it's not a big area, right? So you have to keep that in mind as well. And a lot of these historical holes that were drilled in this property were drilled with 100-meter spacing. So you could easily miss stuff.